In this presentation, we will give a comparative overview of the three main research paradigms in social science research, that is positivism, interpretivism, and pragmatism. So what are these paradigms and what are their implications for research methodology? These are the questions that we will briefly respond to. So first, let us begin with a basic definition of a paradigm. In a common sense, a paradigm basically is a worldview, the way we perceive things, the way we conceive things, and the way we interpret natural and social phenomena. So as we know that there are various ways in which we perceive, conceive, and interpret natural and social phenomena. We can call that our paradigm in general. We can also say that a paradigm is basically a framework of our beliefs, our values, and the techniques that we use to get to reality, and the assumptions that we have that guide and shape particular fields of study or particular fields of knowledge and practice. Now, a paradigm in its technical sense with reference to research is basically based on our ontological, epistemological, axiological, and methodological positioning in academic and research contexts. So what are these? These terms will be explained in the coming slides. So now the main paradigms in social sciences include, first of all, positivism. Positivism is a research paradigm, or you can say a research position that is based on the belief that social reality is objective, it has a universal value, and it is independent of our perceptions or interpretation. In other words, social reality is out there, and our beliefs or interpretations or perceptions have nothing to do with the what and how and the why of social reality. Interpretivism, on the other hand, has the opposite view, where the interpretivists consider that social reality is subjective, it is contextual, it is dependent on our perceptions or our interpretations. In other words, the subjectivity and our perceptions are paramount in terms of our understanding of the social reality. The third paradigm, which is called the pragmatic paradigm, is, you can say, as the very name suggests, it shows the third position of getting to reality. And so pragmatists actually believe that reality is partly objective. So there is some of the reality is, or some of our perceptions of the reality comes from its objective nature. Secondly, it is partly dependent, and so overall our perceptions and interpretations partly define how we perceive reality or what reality actually is. So these are the three main paradigms. We will now discuss, first of all, positivism and its philosophical foundations. So generally, philosophical foundations actually means our ontological, epistemological positioning or understanding of reality. According to positivists, the ontological positioning of positivists is based on the fact, on realism actually, which is actually the belief that reality is objective and it exists independently of human thoughts and beliefs. The epistemological positioning, or you can say the way we get knowledge, that positioning is based on objectivism, and it actually means that knowledge is discovered through observation and measurement. And thirdly, The characteristics of positivism include, first of all, that positivists emphasize observable and measurable facts. So you can measure things that you can observe and you can measure those quantitatively. Secondly, the positivism is based on the belief that the aim of knowledge is to formulate the aim of research is to formulate general laws based on empirical evidence, or evidence that comes through quantification basically, or through the scientific method. And thirdly, positivism make use of deductive reasoning and hypothesis testing. In other words, theory is tested by collecting and analyzing empirical data. So positivism, the methodologies that positivists use include quantitative methods such as experiments, surveys in which quantitative data is collected, and then that data is statistically analyzed. Generally, structured methodologies are used that are well structured. So the research designs are well structured, they are well planned, and those research designs, the research processes and outcomes could be replicated, and so there is predictability in terms of the outcomes of those research designs because those are well structured. The strengths of positivism include that positivists using quantitative research methodologies produce clear, reliable, and generalizable data. Secondly, this paradigm and the methodologies related to this paradigm are useful for studying phenomena that can be measured and quantified. So if you cannot measure accurately or quantify, positivism will not work there. Thirdly, it has also certain limitations. So, for example, positivism, the positivists' research designs or research philosophies might overlook the complexity of human experiences. So there are many human experiences, perceptions that could not be properly quantified, and especially if we ignore the complexity in which those experiences or those perceptions are located. And in many cases, social contexts are ignored in which those behaviors or those realities take place. Secondly, positivism and its related methodologies are criticized for being too rigid, where rigid structures, rigid data collection and analysis methods are used, and so subjective perspectives are actually not accommodated into this paradigm. Now we move on to the second paradigm, which is the interpretivism. So the philosophical foundation of interpretivism, number one, ontologically, it is based on relativism, which actually means that reality is perceived differently by different individuals. So reality is not something that is universal, as is the claim of the positivists. Secondly, epistemological positioning is based on constructivism, which actually means that knowledge is not something that is out there and we discover it, but it is actually constructed, or rather co-constructed through interaction of humans with other humans, or humans with the natural and social phenomena. So, and it's not just that interaction, but also the interpretation of that interaction. That is something that plays a vital role in terms of creating knowledge. The characteristics of interpretivism is that interpretivists focus on understanding the meaning and experiences of individuals in contexts. Secondly, the emphasis is on the subjective nature of reality rather than the objectivity of reality. And thirdly, generally is in contrast to the positivist research designs and methodologies. The interpretivists make use of inductive reasoning. That is, they go from particular contextual understanding to a general theory. So theories are basically developed from particular observations of particular situations or particular instances or of individuals. You can say it is a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach, as is the case with positivism. Interpretivism, the methodologies that we use generally make use of in interpretivism include qualitative methods, such as, for example, for data collection, we use interviews and focus groups. We conduct ethnographic studies and case studies. The designs are generally flexible and adaptable. So in comparison to the positivist research designs, quantitative research designs, qualitative research designs are flexible. They are not generally very pre-planned. And these research designs help us in exploring social phenomena in depth, because these research designs give us the flexibility to explore further, to dig further, and to make changes to our research designs in line with our needs. The strengths of interpretivism and the aligned research methodologies include the provision of rich, detailed insights into human and social phenomena, behaviors. Secondly, it helps us, these designs and this paradigm helps us in capturing complexity or the complexity of the social phenomena, and also the context in which the individuals experience what they experience. This research paradigm and the research methodologies related to this design, to this paradigm, also have certain limitations. So first of all, generally findings are often context specific. They might not be generalizable. Secondly, subjective interpretation or the subjectivity on the part of the researchers and sometimes the data sources is also something that can lead to possible bias in terms of data collection, data analysis, and interpretations. So now coming to the third paradigm, the pragmatism, the philosophical foundation of pragmatism. First of all, ontologically, it is based on the philosophy of practical realism, which is based on the philosophy that reality is shaped by practical effects and consequences. So it's the effects and the consequences of reality that are important rather than the very nature of reality or how we perceive that reality. Secondly, epistemologically speaking, it follows the pragmatic school of thought, where the belief is that knowledge is evaluated based on its usefulness and practical application rather than knowledge for the sake of knowledge, or knowledge that is based on the perceptions of individuals. The characteristics of pragmatism include that it focuses on practical outcomes. So you can say ends justify means type of philosophy and solution to problems. Secondly, it integrates both objective and subjective perspectives. And thirdly, it uses both deductive and inductive reasoning in terms of exploring social phenomena. The methodologies that are used in this paradigm are mixed method research designs, where both quantitative and qualitative approaches are adopted. The research designs are partly flexible, that prioritize practical implications and solutions, or you can say ends rather than means. The strengths of this paradigm and its aligned methods include the offering that it gives us as a balanced approach that leverages the strengths of both quantitative and qualitative methods. Its emphasis is on practical relevance and real-world applications. It also has certain limitations. One of the limitations is that it could be challenging to integrate both quantitative and qualitative methods coherently. Many researchers might find it difficult to have a good balance, and so instead of using mixed method research effectively, they can actually mix up things. And next, many people might criticize for a lack of clear philosophical stance, or you can say because of its non-paradigmatic positioning. Now, an overall summary of the research paradigm. So we have aspects of positivism, interpretivism, and pragmatism, and those aspects include its ontology, epistemology, focus, reasoning, methods, strengths, and limitations. So ontologically, the ontological aspect of positivism is that it follows realism, of the interpretivism that it follows relativism, and in the pragmatic paradigm they follow practical realism. Epistemologically speaking, positivism follows objectivism, interpretivists follow constructivism, and pragmatists follow pragmatic approach or practical approach. The focus of positivism is on observable facts. Interpretivists follow meaning and experiences, and pragmatists focus on practical outcomes. In terms of reasoning or logic, positivists follow deductive logic, interpretivists follow inductive logic, or going from specific to general, and pragmatists make use of both inductive and deductive approaches or reasoning. In terms of methods, generally positivists use quantitative methods, interpretivists make use of qualitative methods, and pragmatists make use of both quantitative and qualitative methods, or you can say mixed method research designs. In terms of strengths, positivism or in research designs that relate to positivism help us in generalizing our findings, so the findings or the results are generalizable, and the data is generally concrete, quantifiable, and reliable. In comparison, interpretivism, the strengths include that the data that we get in those designs, qualitative research designs, is rich, detailed, and it gives us detailed insights. And in terms of pragmatism, there is a balanced practical relevance. So the focus is on actually the practical implications or understanding of social reality. And lastly, all of these paradigmatic positions have limitations. Generally, positivism ignores the complexity, especially in terms of understanding human-related phenomena or social phenomena. And interpretivists basically are maybe in some cases become too specific, and subjectivity, an element of subjectivity could be there that could reduce the broader applicability of the findings from qualitative research. And lastly, in terms of pragmatism, it is generally a challenge for pragmatists and for researchers who make use of mixed method research design to have a good integration of the quantitative and qualitative research designs into one, and sometimes they can just mix up things. So this is generally a summary of the three main paradigms of research that we make use of in social science research.